You're locked into the Womanora Crush Wednesday podcast, the only weekly podcast inspiring, educating, motivating 1 million women entrepreneurs one Wednesday at a time. The WCW podcast is fueled by the Purpose Formula: passion plus purpose plus profit equals success. And here are your hosts, Jen and Modi.
Hey Crushes, you are listening to episode 47 of the WCW podcast. Our WCW this week is Dr. Roshawnna Novellus. Wow, this woman is so impressive. She has done it all, from earning $600,000 in scholarships to pursue 4 degrees. She bought her first house at 22. She is an author, business strategist, speaker, entrepreneur, many times over an entrepreneur, and her understanding of money and the ability to get financing and raise financing is like none other. She founded Novellus Financial to be able to help other women, especially women entrepreneurs, to be able to pursue their dreams as well. In this episode, we'll be talking about everything from raising capital to securing college scholarships to business strategy to making connections and building relationships that you need to be successful in business. So, hope you enjoyed this episode.
Hey, Crushes, you are listening to Womanora Crush Wednesday podcast show. Today we have Roshawnna Novellus with us. Welcome, Roshawnna, to WCW podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
We are happy to have you. Can you tell us your Womanora story? How did you start your journey on becoming a serial entrepreneur, a finance entrepreneur, author, coach, and an investor?
Well, I've always loved pushing myself into new areas. So specifically in the finance sector, my mother started taking me to investment club meetings when I was 12 years old. Wow. So by the age of 18, I knew how to balance a portfolio. And then when I started my first corporate job, I started going to the closings of when my coworkers started buying their first homes, and it just seemed natural for me. So ever since then, I would help people when they had financial questions, tax questions, and it kind of morphed from there. So I wrote the book, Budgeting is More Liberation Than Limitation, so that people could understand basic financial principles. And I've been focused on helping businesses retain access to capital ever since then.
Awesome.
So I have a few questions from what you said. So is your mom an entrepreneur?
No, actually my mother was a high school teacher, so was my father. So, and they had an investment club at her high school. So she started just taking me with her because she believed that all women need to know how to manage finances. So that was one of the principles she instilled in me early on.
That's awesome.
Okay, great.
That's awesome. I think every woman should have that foundation. It's very important, and that's great to hear. I guess that's why you bought your first home at 22?
Yes. So fortunately for me, I applied to over 200 scholarships to go to college and won over $600,000 in scholarships. So by the time that I started working, I didn't have any debt, and I was pretty savvy at managing finances. So I actually bought my first home the week before I started my first job. Back then, all you needed was an offer letter to qualify for a mortgage. So I was able to close before I started my first job.
Wow.
My first house in DC. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Wow. And
that's
awesome. So, wow, that's impressive. So how did you know how to even look for those scholarships?
Well,
is that your mother?
Well, back then I used to go to the library a lot. I know people don't do that anymore. And they have scholarship books, actually, which lists all of the organizations that provide scholarships. Mm-hmm. So I sent letters that pretty much had my story. These are my goals. This is who I am, to all of these organizations. And I asked them for the opportunity to apply for their particular scholarship or award. And most of them wrote me a letter back or sent me their scholarship application. So after that, I applied to every single one. So I won a lot of $250 scholarships, $500 scholarships, in addition to the larger scholarships. But I said, I'm going to apply to everything that I can. So I applied to over 200 grants from a scholarship book that I found in the library.
Were you like a 4.0 student or?
Yeah, I was valedictorian, captain of the cheer squad, homecoming queen, all that. I was very generic.
Wow. Wow. This is not generic. Generic is like basic. You're not basic, girl.
Right.
Yeah, but I was determined. Okay. My mother worked so hard, so she taught not only regular high school, but she taught night school, for people getting their GEDs. And I didn't want her to worry about me worrying about her paying for me to go to college. So that really fueled me to work really hard and make sure that I was going to take care of it myself.
That's awesome. That's very thoughtful of you. And motivating and ambitious, to even look for that. I mean, a lot of people do not even know that there are scholarship books out.
Yeah.
And this is the time. I mean, although it's probably too late now, but I know earlier in the year, it would have been a great time to have some kind of seminar on scholarship, on books, on scholarships and things like that, because a lot of people do not know, most especially women of color. People of color do not know where to get this stuff, where to get these resources. And it's great that you're saying it now so people can hear it all around the world, that there are scholarship books out there.
Right. And now we have a lot of scholarship apps out there. So you can actually put in your GPA and what your specialty is, and they will pull up list of scholarships that you would qualify for. So there are a lot of resources, and my recommendation is to just apply to as many as possible. A lot of people only focus on the full rides, the 20,000 and up scholarships, but everyone's applying to those. Right. So my recommendation is apply to the ones that are giving $250, $500, because those add up if you win a lot of them,
Right. Yeah. Do you have any? Can you just drop some names of those apps? I know we have a lot of moms listening that, maybe they could use that.
I actually don't know off the top of my head. I've seen some on Shark Tank, and I've just seen other people use them, but I don't remember the names off the top.
Okay. Yeah. So that means that those listening will have to Google.
Right.
But so let's fast forward to you started this first job. Where was the first job at? And then we can just start back from there.
Right. So my first completely real job with benefits and everything was at Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab. So I worked on government contracts, very technical job. And I had a lot of coworkers who would ask me questions such as, what should I put in my 401k? How do I do this? How do I do that? So that became my reputation around the office. Roshawnna knows how to deal with all this. Right. So it really fueled me into pursuing the financial side as an entrepreneur. So when I decided, hey, it's time for me to leave corporate America, it was like a no-brainer for me to go into the financial sector.
Okay. And so you said that you became educated on the whole financial side. So did you just what did you do what are the steps that you took for that? And did you become a certified financial planner or?
Well, yeah. So I've always read tax law books. And when I moved to Atlanta, I actually became a VITA certified tax preparer. So that's a tax preparer for low and medium income taxpayer. So there's a series of tests. Then I became an enrolled agent, which required another series of tests. Then in terms of the financial advice sector, I took a lot of the SEC exams, like the Series 7, the Series 6, the Series 63. So there are lots of different tests that you can take that will illustrate your knowledge of finance. So I took all kinds of tests. I've taken all kinds of tests over my life, but those all helped me in my journey to help people with finance.
So do you think that someone starting out today, they would need to, take classes in order to become, where you are today? They would need to take those classes? Or could they just learn?
Oh, go ahead.
Could they just learn from...
They could learn. They can learn. There's so many resources out there, and that's one of the reasons I wrote Budgeting is More Liberation Than Limitation, because it's a basic guide to how to use your budget and how to make sure your money works for you. Mm-hmm. But the first step you have to do is figure out what your goals are, what your needs are. You have to stop comparing yourself to your friends, your family, your kids, your parents, whoever, and figure out what kind of life you want to lead. And once you figure that out, you can decide how you want to spend your money. And sometimes you may want to spend your money on guitar lessons. Some people want to spend their money on coffee. Others want to spend it on travel. And that's okay, as long as you have a framework in place. And when I bought my first house, it was my first time. So clearly I didn't know everything about it, but I had friends who had done it before, who I called for advice, and they helped me through the process. So a lot of times people think that they can't ask anyone for help, and that is the wrong perspective. So either if it's verbal, like your friend, your community, ask them for help, or read books. There are a lot of resources out there that will help anybody make better financial decisions.
Thank you. Awesome for those tips. Now that you've been in, how long have you been owning your own business and being out there as an entrepreneur?
I've been a full-time entrepreneur for 5 years. I had other ventures before that where I was still working, but it's been a whole 5 years at this point.
Awesome.
Could you tell us about that experience, and then what is the best part that you feel is about owning your own business?
It's different than I expected. When you work for someone else, you can kind of distribute the load of what is required. You can have sick days. You can just, go on autopilot for a while if you choose to. But that is not the case when you work for yourself. When you work for yourself, you are the boss. You have to make sure that you are taken care of. If you have employees, they're taken care of. And so it's a much bigger responsibility than working for someone else. And my favorite part of being an entrepreneur is the fact that I can decide what I want to do every single day. So some days I go to the gym at 6 a.m. and then other days I go at lunch, and I can kind of schedule my meetings and my work around the schedule that I feel is best for me. And I wasn't able to do that when I worked for someone else. So that is by far my favorite aspect about being an entrepreneur.
Awesome.
Do you have a proudest moment so far in the 5 years that you?
Well, I have my Oscar moment. I feel like it's my Oscar moment. Last year, I was recognized by the Atlanta Business Chronicle of one of the women who means business. So that's an award given to the top 20 women in the city.
Awesome. Kudos.
And so I was able to, I was the youngest woman. I think there was one other person of color, and I was able to give a speech in front of a room of a couple hundred people. And I just felt like I was walking on clouds. So it wasn't only the award, it was the fact that someone realized how hard I was working, and that really propelled me to keep going.
Okay.
Congratulations. That is a big accomplishment.
Yes. So you are active in your community. I noticed that you are in the STEM community.
Yeah, so I have 3 engineering degrees. So I love technology and I love helping startups who have a tech focus. So I do things from teaching people how to code to just coaching and consulting tech startups. So we need more people in the community, and I just hope that the community continues to grow, especially for women and people of color.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Do you do that just online or in person? I mean, does someone have to be in Atlanta to be able to take advantage of that, or?
Well, for the teaching how to code, I've pretty much only done that in person, even though I know that people do that online. And then the coaching aspect, that person can be anywhere. That's easier to have a virtual relationship for that piece.
Okay. So what drives you daily? What keeps you creatively inspired in doing your business every day?
Well, I feel like my mission is to help as many entrepreneurs as possible actualize their dreams. So that's what keeps me going. If I just think about myself, I'm just like, oh, okay, I've accomplished enough. But I think of all the people who haven't had the resources that I've had, who don't know the kinds of people that I know. And I know that I can make a difference in their lives. So that fuels me, that keeps me going. And I'm on a mission to help as many entrepreneurs as possible, and I'm going to keep going until I help more.
That's so inspiring. That's very inspiring.
So your main source of income and your main, I guess, focus in your business is the financial coaching. Now that we're in a world of social media and blogging and vlogging and podcasting and all this kind of stuff, how do you create fresh content, and how do you know what content to create for your business as far as social media is concerned and like digital marketing is concerned?
Well, social media trends change very often. So the platforms that I'm best at are LinkedIn and Instagram. And I treat it like it's a science experiment. So I assess people who I feel are similar to me and kind of look at what they're doing, right? And I figure out the things that I like, the things that get the most engagement, and then design the content based on that. So most of my written blog posts now are all about investor readiness, how to attract funding, how to stay successful as an entrepreneur, and those kind of topics will last the test of time. But for Instagram, people like certain kinds of things. So my Instagram is kind of a mixture of sassy inspiration mixed with things that I'm doing, mixed with helpful tips on how to be an entrepreneur. And I found out that formula works best for me and fueled the most growth in my profile.
Right, because it's authentic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to do what fits your brand.
Yeah.
Right.
That we say all the time. I just lost what I was thinking about. It'll come back.
Roshawnna, what's the best financial advice that you've heard?
Well, I love this quote from Tim Ferriss in The 4-Hour Workweek. And he said that wealth is defined by what you do, where you do it, when you do it, and with whom. And if you can control those 4 W's, you will live a wealthy life. And that really impacted me. After I read that, I decided to move from DC to Atlanta because I love Atlanta. I decided to become an entrepreneur because I wanted to be in charge of what I was doing. I decided to be in charge of my schedule so I can be in charge of when I was doing certain activities, and I decided to kind of limit my friend circle so that I could only hang out with people who were actually feeding my soul, making me laugh, feeding my mind, one of those characteristics. And I felt like my life was so much better. So I know it's kind of not exactly financial advice, but that is how you live a wealthy life. And if you decide to live that wealthy life, your financial decisions will be in alignment with that kind of life that you decide to lead.
That's a great quote. Definitely one to live by. 4-Hour Workweek is an amazing book for anyone, just not people who are entrepreneurs, but really for anyone.
I agree.
And you're also a yogi, right?
Yeah, so I'm a certified yoga instructor. I had a crisis, I suppose, in 2014. I'm a type A person, and I noticed I was becoming one of these I'll be happy when people. I'll be happy when I achieve another, accolade or receive an award or do something else. And I'm like, I need to live in the present moment. I need to be more mindful. So I decided to take 6 weeks off, move to Thailand, study at an ashram, get my yoga teacher certification. And being there really helped me figure out, number one, that we have everything that we need to make us happy now. And number two, like living in the present moment and being mindful is the thing that we need to do to be the most happiest. Like we can't find our happiness in material things and other people, but when we are happy inside, then everything is great. And so when I came back to the States, I realized that if I can integrate this philosophy in everything that I do, I'm a much more happy person. And that's how I use the yoga philosophy to this day.
Awesome.
Are you still teaching yoga or no?
I don't teach it anymore because it became a job. If you have to teach every day at 5:00, I was like, wait, no, I want to teach what I want to teach.
Right.
So at this point, I do like pop-up yoga classes or just, whenever I feel like it, because to me, that whole practice is about doing what you feel is right when it's right and not at a particular time.
I totally agree. And I want to go back to your move to Atlanta as part of your 4W. Did you have, I know you said it was planned and all that kind of stuff. Did you have a seed money or savings saved up for you to make that move? And did you, when you hit the ground running or when you got there, did you immediately start having clients, or how was that transition?
Yes, so I was a heavy saver. So I had 2 years worth of living expenses saved before I quit my job in corporate America. When I told them I was moving to Atlanta, they actually said, can you please just work from home when you move there? So I moved here in actually 2010 and worked from home until 2012 when I told them, hey, no, I really want to be a full-time entrepreneur. This is a great opportunity, but it's time for me to go. And like I said, at that time, I did have savings. And before I left corporate America, I made sure I had a contract in place that would pay for my initial bills and would pay me and whatnot. And that's one thing I recommend that everyone do before they leave, figure out how they're going to make money beforehand. Although in my case, the contract wasn't honored. I was paid my first paycheck. And then there was some caveat in the contract that said that if they could hire anyone else that could do part of my job, they wouldn't have to honor the contract. So I was kind of 2 weeks in, I'm thinking I have everything planned under control. I had to figure out something new, which happens, right? But I had a plan in place, and in 2012, I had to figure out the next steps, and I'm still here 5 years later, so.
Awesome. And you're still going, which is a great
Yes.
testimony.
Still
a great
going.
Story.
So, Roshawnna, we have a mantra that we ask everybody on the show. It's to tell us their purpose formula. So you kind of answered it, but it's purpose, passion, profit equals success. Can you let us know what you think your purpose formula is?
So my purpose is to help women and people of color survive and thrive in entrepreneurship. So the profit piece comes from either coaching or just helping them gain their access to capital and receive monies from there. And then I forgot, what was the third part? Sorry.
Profit. Passion.
And the passion, that's part of everything. So the passion is the drive to keep going, the drive to help these people, because I know that their dreams are worth achieving. I know that I can help be part of their team to actualize their goals. So all of those aspects are a part of me and how I live my life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
We have another question that you may have already answered. Top 3 things that you would impart on someone that was following your footsteps.
One, just because your plans fall apart doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. So keep on going. Number 2 is trust your intuition with people. So if you feel that this person might not be a good partner for an event or activity, just trust that and move on. And number 3, always be willing to stretch and move outside your comfort zone to try something new. You might just like it.
You're right. You might just like it.
So true. So true. Great words for someone new to entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm. So you moved to Atlanta and you didn't know anyone? You just moved free will, no one?
Well, I did attend Georgia Tech for a summer in undergrad, and I thought that I would spend most of my time with those that still lived here, but that wasn't correct. So I ended up seeing 1 or 2 people, but most of my friends, I met all of them after I moved here. So I had this algorithm in place, of course, back to the science background. I said, I'm going to have at least 5 sets of friends so that I can survive in a new city. So I found the fitness friends. I befriended people at the gym. I found the friends that like to go to music festivals and concerts. I started going to all these events and meeting people. Hey, I had a book club in place. So someone's like, hey, do you want to read this book? I didn't even think the book was interesting, but I went anyway because I wanted that group of people. And I had my civic minded friends. Atlanta is really big on giving to the community. So I started going to United Way events, Urban League events, and what have you. And then I had my little, my energetic, hippie, flower child friends. I love them. I'm from California. So, and that really set up the stage for me to have tons of friends. So when I first moved here, I went to every single thing that I was invited to for the first couple months until I had enough friends. So it's such that I had a robust ecosystem around me, and that was how I did it.
Smart, very smart.
So,
thank you.
What's next for Roshawnna?
Well, I just finished my first EnrichHER conference, which was great. We had over 250 women-led businesses participate in the initiative.
Awesome.
And I've received several requests to move this conference out to other cities. So I'm thinking about moving it out to 2 cities this year and then several more next year. And I'm also building a platform to help women receive access to capital. So I'm in the early stages of that, and I'm going to try to create the platform sometime soon, and we'll see what happens. But as I mentioned before, every single thing I do is to try to help women and people of color succeed in business. So that is what you'll see from me here on out.
That's awesome.
Is that going to be in the form of an accelerator type of program, or the platform, or how is that?
Well, the platform will be 3 parts. So one part will be an online incubator. So we'll have all kinds of courses such as entrepreneurial finance, the legal side of entrepreneurship, all of that. And you already know about the conference piece. But the third piece will be an online regulated crowdfunding platform for women-led businesses. So if you need $25,000 for your company, you can actually raise that money on the platform. So that's what I'm working on now.
Okay. Please keep us in the loop on when that's going to be launched and all that stuff.
Will do. I'm so excited.
Awesome.
So are we. It sounds really, really good. So, can you give us your handles of where you can be reached?
Yes, so on Instagram, I'm at Roshawnna Novellus, Roshawnna Novellus. I know I have a long name. On LinkedIn, I'm Roshawnna, and on Facebook and Twitter, I'm Dr. Roshawnna.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for interviewing with us and being a part of our show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was such a great conversation.
Thanks for tuning in to the Womanore Crush Wednesday podcast. Be sure to tune in next week for Girl Talk with Jen and Modi, along with some of your favorite business crushes, more exclusive business tips, insights, creative business ideas, and doable action steps to improve your business and help you create your phenomenal life. Sharing is caring. Don't forget to tell a friend to subscribe and stay tuned for a weekly dose of the WCW podcast. Crushing hard on a womanore and want to hear her story on the show? Know a creative woman-owned business that's killing it? Let us know at womanorcrushwednesday@gmail.com.